The Coach Judy Live show is about achieving personal and professional success from A to Z. Our guests and the topics we talk about are related to what you need to know. They're related to all aspects of life, whether it's financial, whether it's relationships, whether it's doing a business, getting a business, or what you need to know in business. That's what the Coach Judy Live show is about. It's putting you information out there so you can achieve and find the success that you're looking for, whether it's a personal success that you're still trying to find, whether it's a professional success, if it's work, or just trying to live. The Coach Judy show is a show to tune into because we care about you and we want to give you the information that you need. As a matter of fact, as I was putting together my notes for the show, I even came up with a segment that is for you. The name of the subject is You Name It. I'd like you to contact us and go to our Facebook page with Coach Judy Live, as we have a page just for the show, and share it. Ideas or topics or questions you have that you'd like to hear on the show, or you can email it to me directly to coachjudylive@gmail.com, as we want to put on the topics and answer the questions that you want answered. But if we don't hear from you, it's not going to happen. So I encourage you to spread the word about Coach Judy Live. We're on YouTube. The page is going to be called Coach Judy Live. Right now what's up there is Judy Romanoff, but my producer will be changing it. And we're going to be having shows that are going to be unbelievable like we did in the past. So I hope you'll continue listening. And now I'm really excited to bring somebody I met many, many years ago when I had began my early work in dealing and working with single parents and creating the National Single Parent Resource Center. He, too, has a passion for what he does because too many children are not being treated properly. Their best interest is not being addressed the way it should. People turn a closed eye to what's going on. They don't want to deal with it, and they don't stop to think the harm they're doing to the children. I can say as a grandmother and a mother whose daughter was a product of a custody battle that never should have happened, but we won. The challenges that we have experienced is reflective in the millions of people out there that are dealing with single-parent issues. And I want to say it's not just the parents, it's not just the children, but the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, and cousins are all affected if you have a close relationship. So I'm really excited to bring on my guest, Dean Tong. I also want to thank him very much for making a donation to the National Single Parent Resource Center. It's an organization I founded. It was honored in 1999 for creating outstanding model programs and resources in Washington, D.C. All local press in South Florida covered the event, the newspaper articles, and so on. And because of the organization and their needs, and they are not funded, I want to let you know that when you become a part of our show and you make a donation, you are changing and touching the lives of single parents because we can then do more to help our single parents. I want to add that if you want to go to our website at nationalsingleparent.org and you want to touch the life of a child and make a difference, please go to our site where it says donations and make a donation. Whether it's $1, $60, $1,000, whatever it is, you will make a difference because through the PMA fund that I created because of the abuses I personally have experienced and what others have experienced, I decided we have to have a special fund for abuse. It's programs and materials for reducing the risk of abuse. Well, our goal is to raise major money so those who call us who can afford the training kit that we have out there and available that goes into communication, as Sally was speaking about in our earlier segment, so you can be in control and how to communicate, understand what it really means to work in the best interest of the children, as well as how do you hire a lawyer? What questions do you need to ask are all in the training kit. And I believe if you're not in a single-parent family, you need the training kit too because they're your coworkers, they might be your employers, and family, and in school. And I think everybody really needs to understand what does it mean to work in the best interest of the children, especially children of single-parent families, because they are the ones who are damaged the most, and they are scarred for life. I will say firsthand, they are scarred for life. You may not see it, but they are. In addition, due to the challenges of phone calls I've been receiving where families are at risk of losing their home, whether you're a single parent with children or you're a single parent as an adult, not as an adult, but as a senior, we are creating a new fund to help raise money to help families in need. So we have two great funds for two big problems, abuse as well as homelessness. And I can say firsthand, if you've never been homeless, you have no idea the challenges that go on and the abuses you're at risk and can face. But if you don't know how to deal with abuse and be in control of your life, it's much harder. So I'm excited to now share with you and bring on Dean Tong. He is an expert in custody battles, going to court. He testifies in court. He's written books, and he's done an awful lot because he cares and understands the damage and the harm, and he has the ability to come in and help represent and work for you, but most important, work for your child. So, Dean, welcome to the Coach Judy Live Talk Show.
Judy, thanks for having me back. I guess we talked about a year ago.
Yeah, I think it was. As a matter of fact, I was looking up, and then my father said, oh, my God, it was like a year ago Dean was on the show. So what timing?
Yeah, and I wanted to address the what I call the new wrinkle in these parenting time disputes and custody battles, and even cases where there's not active litigation, like the case I'm going to talk about, that of Amy Casey. Mothers losing custody of their kids. Mothers who are tabbed by the courts as being falsely accusing parental alienators, that they're coaching their kids to make false allegations of sexual abuse against the father. And I'm seeing this to be a very pervasive problem now in this country. I just got hired in another case from New York that's all over the media, all over the New York tabloids up there in New York. And the father's very, very wealthy in that case. And I'm seeing this to be, basically a wrinkle that has metastasized kind of like cancer, and it really is due to a naive, unwitting, and even ignorant court system. And I'm not just talking about the judges. I'm talking about the attorneys, the CPS people, DCF, Florida, CPT, guardians ad litem, parenting coordinators, all the way down the line here. And it's really sad because what I'm seeing is a system that is getting one-sided education. They're not getting both sides. They're not getting peer-reviewed scientific journal articles and books and academic literature on both sides of this coin. And most of these cases are not malicious false allegations anyway. When a parent is falsely accused, it's usually a mistake, an error, either a confused child or a child who's a victim of suggestibility and memory issues. But usually you don't find a parent who's going to pick up a phone and call 1-800-96-ABUSE and is going to tell the other parent, I'm going to ruin your life. I'm going to turn you into DCF and CPT and the police, and you're going to go to jail, and you're not going to see this kid ever again. That's usually not how it works.
Well, I have to tell you something. I hear that a lot, that when people get angry, they say that they're going to, and then they chicken out, especially if they've got things worked out and they haven't made things more court legal, especially for these mothers or fathers who never married, and then they get caught up in this vicious cycle, and then they don't really know what to do, and so much damage has come to these children. So one quick question I did want to ask you, what you're saying about the state of Florida, do you find this all over the country that's what's happening? Because I do know, Amy, I know the story. Is this coming all over the country?
I've been here, Judy, since 1980 in Florida. I was born and raised in Massachusetts. Got here to Florida when I was 24, and since I've been here 33 years, there have been 10 different secretaries of DCF. As you know, yeah, there have been 10 different heads of DCF since I've been here in 30-plus years. That's really an abomination right there. That means that the head of DCF lasts no more than 3 years. The last guy just resigned a few months ago, Wilkins. The interim secretary now is Esther Jacobo. But here's my point. as you probably are aware, DCF used to be called HRS back in the 80s and early 90s. And then Lawton Childs decided to change its name. Well, Associated Press called me and said, Mr. Tong, we'd like a comment. The HRS has just changed their name to DCF, Department of Children and Families. And I said, you can quote me on this, AP. A skunk is a skunk is a skunk. It still stinks. It doesn't change anything by changing the name. This is a very undereducated and undertrained system. And it all
one quick question, though. Is the staff undertrained as well, or do you think it's just the way they operate in itself and need people like us going in and really addressing these issues?
Well, it's clearly a power trip. It's clearly a money trip. I mean, the system, last time I checked, DCF was tabulating at $4 billion a year was their revenue in Florida. That's a huge money-making industry. Huge.
Right.
There's a book that talked about this that was published, around the time my first book, Don't Blame Me, Daddy, was published in '92, called Out of Control, by Brenda Scott, on how much money the child protection industry, what she called it, and she called it an industry, was making at the expense of our kids.
Right.
This is what we call in law, in loco parentis, parens patriae, the state is the parent. But yeah, I look. I've had cases from all 50 states. My website is abuse-excuse.com. You just Google my name, and I'm out there. But the point is, this is a pervasive problem. Florida's probably one of the worst, maybe not the worst, but it's clearly one of the top 5 worst in America. And kids being left to die. Being put back in the care of abusers, sexual abusers, physical abusers, kids who die, put back there by the state. And on the other side of the street, they're conducting witch hunts, false allegation cases. So the left hand doesn't know what the right one's doing. And look, I testify against these people 24/7, 365. It's just amazing what I see. The incompetence within the system is just extraordinary level of incompetence. And, I do want to touch on Amy's case. It's a case from Central Florida. She's a mom who her 6-year-old in 2009 made an outcry of abuse to her and then to a therapist in North Carolina who has a Ph.D. Clearly, the child was exhibiting signs and symptoms of behaviors consistent with a sexually traumatized kid. The kid was interviewed, the child, by a 25-year veteran of sex crimes detectives. And I read the transcript. It seemed to be a spontaneous disclosure by the child. Didn't seem to be prompted. I didn't see any coaching. Didn't seem to be, there was no custody case going on. The case was not in litigation. It was a post-divorce case, but there was nothing pending in court. Point is, the North Carolina authorities and child protection unfounded it. So they called Florida because the alleged crime scene would have been in Central Florida at the father's house. And Florida DCF got involved and the police got involved, and they also unfounded it. So Amy, the mother, took the child to Massachusetts, where her parents reside, and took the child to a physician there and a psychologist, 2 experts, both who opined that this kid has been sexually abused. However, when the case came back to court in Central Florida, the judge would not have any of that, basically saying that I'm not listening to any out-of-state experts. I'm only going to hear from Florida experts only. Statute doesn't say he should be doing that, but he did. And then he appointed his own expert, who I'm not going to name, but who was a psychologist. Who was a psychologist. And she met with the child, but she didn't do what we call proper source monitoring. She didn't make all the exhaustive collateral contacts she was supposed to make. And she basically said, this kid is a victim of coaching by the mother, that this is a malicious false allegation of sex abuse by the father, that the mother was educating or indoctrinating the child to say these things. Well, first of all, the PhD never had the DVD forensic interview because I've never seen it. And, I mean, this is my claim to fame. This is what I do across America.
Right.
I reviewed the DVD interviews of these kids at the Child Protection Team at the Child Advocacy Center. So I know she never saw the DVD interview because I've never seen it. And Amy hired me last May as a defense expert, for her side. But anyway, the judge abdicated to the doctor's opinion that the child was a coached kid. And even though the doctor recommended that the court appoint a parenting coordinator, the judge cherry-picked what he was going to do. He cherry-picked the data and the information that he culled from this case and what he was going to do with it. And what he did with it was in April of 2011, about a year and a half after this case broke in the fall of 2009, he wrested custody of this child from the mother and gave custody to the father. And now we're up to November of 2013. The father's had custody for 2.5 years. The child's gone from bad to worse. The mother has supervised Skype visits. The child has an affect that's flat and sad, very cavalier attitude. This kid, she's had suicidal ideations, wanting to really kill herself. And the sadder thing here is the judge did not allow a parenting coordinator, a guardian ad litem. The kid's not in therapy. So there's really no mandated reporter that this kid can reach out to and say, hey, you know what? I've got issues with my dad at home. Something's happening to me.
I got you a question with what you're saying, because I've heard this, and I know of a case when I was involved with mothers without custody, with the small towns that you wonder, because I know in my own case in the beginning, because there was wealth on my side, and my family were my adversaries, and I was wondering, can these judges be bought? Can they really be turned to one side and not look at everything that's really going on? Because I know in Amy's case, it's like hard to imagine that a judge would deny evidence and experts to come in and really speak.
The problem, Judy, is these judges are clearly omnipotent, or they think they are. The legal team only has certain remedies to disqualify a judge. You only have certain things you can do to get rid of a judge. I mean, you can file a motion for recusal. You can file a complaint against the judge with the JQC. We've done all that. We've been there, done that. The judge wouldn't have any of it.
So he's really control. So what you're saying is he has total control to do whatever, and he's not being open-minded to really listen, that it makes you wonder, who is he really?
Yeah, and to pour gasoline on the fire, Judy, the reason why you're not listening to Amy tell her story and Dean Tong do so for her, this judge issued a gag order against her. I mean, how does that happen in state court? In state court, where her First Amendment right to freedom of the press and freedom of speech is clearly a God-given right in this country, a right that was given to us in 1776 by our forefathers, and that right's been taken away. She cannot talk to the media. She'll be held in contempt and go to jail.
Well, and I understand, because I also know in this case that the judge has gagged her from even joining and participating with organizations that could help her. So it doesn't make sense, like he's got an ulterior motive, that there's something more going on here than it's like so obvious.
To coin a word, Judy, the judge has basically ordered a motherectomy in this case and eviscerated this mother from the life of her daughter and vice versa. But meanwhile, this kid is suffering. She's not doing good. She could become the next, Amber Alert because she runs away, or worse, she could wind up in a body bag somewhere. Unfortunately and sadly, that's how Florida reacts. Florida waits until a tragedy or travesty happens to a kid before they finally get it. And then they, like for example, Jessica Lunsford, the little girl who was raped and killed in Homosassa, Crystal River a few years ago by John.
Yes, I do remember that case very well. It stood out in my mind because he was a neighbor.
Right, and Governor Jeb Bush was so irate that the system allowed this guy to get loose to rape and kill her. He amended Florida Statute 800.04. So now when you're convicted of 800.04, lewd and lascivious child molestation under Florida law, it's life without parole. You're done. Stick a fork in you. And that's fine.
I have a question. I guess a quick question, because you're talking about, the governor and stuff. Should somebody done be contacting the governor in this case? Because he's the governor of
Governor Rick Scott's not going to get involved in this case, Judy. It's clearly a state court family squabble, protracted high conflict case. But I do want to stress that there was no timing in Amy's daughter's allegations in this case to make it a false allegation. Look, I'm the guy that wrote the book on that. That's me.
Sure.
My book was the first book to hit the bookstores, B. Dalton's and Walden books in 1992. At the time, Woody Allen was accused of molestation by Mia Farrow, and Michael Jackson was accused the first time in his scenario. Don't Blame Me, Daddy. And I talked about the timing of perhaps the mother engineering a kid to make false allegations against fathers of sexual abuse in custody cases. This was not that. There was no litigation at bar in this case. There was nothing going on. Amy had no motive, method, or opportunity to wield her child as a pawn, weapon, or tool. She just didn't. There was no animosity there between X and X. And, this child just made an off-the-cuff disclosure that her daddy was touching her. And again, I've never seen the DVD, and that's clearly the most reliable piece of data when we have a case like this of child victim hearsay. He said, she said, what a young child said. But the reality is this doctor makes an opinion to a reasonably psychological scientific certainty that this kid's been coached, and yet she's never seen the DVD. I mean, as an expert myself, I don't know how that could be allowed.
I guess your question, how can we, as a show, the National Single Parent Resource Center, which receives all benefits of sponsorships and advertising with the show, to help the single parents, is there anything suggested that we, with our show, can do something to help in any way? Because I know that she's gagged and she can't do anything.
Unfortunately, Judy, family court is the one court where you get as much justice as you can afford. Amy's on her fifth attorney. She's clearly bankrupt. And I mean, she makes an honest means living, modest means.
Right, I know that.
And and the bottom line is she's paying child support on top of that. Child support to a sole custodial father who still may be molesting this kid. And the reality is, unless you're in criminal court or juvenile dependency court fighting the state or fighting CPS. If you don't have the resources, then I can't be appointed by the state. A lawyer can't be appointed for you. You got to pay for all that.
I totally understand, because that's part of the problems I get with clients who call. Is like by the time they find me, they're out of money. They have nothing, and it's like you feel terrible because there's injustices going on, especially for the children. You hit on it with your last talk show interviewee about choosing the right lawyer, and there's a section in my book, Elusive Innocence, how to choose your attorney. That's one of the appendices at the back of the book. I took great pains in writing that, and that is so important because guys and gals and fathers and mothers call me, and gee, Mr. Tong, I'm just out of money. My Titanic's already hit the iceberg. And I said, Guy, you can't be throwing darts at lawyers.com or the Yellow Pages and just choose any attorney and expect that to pan out for you. Well, that's true, because I know that people, they think that they say, well, I'll call the attorney, and it's like, you've got to know how to hire a lawyer. You need to know what questions to ask. You need to really understand. It's like I try to tell people, learn about it before you hire the lawyer, because it's not what you think it is. The court's not there to really protect. The lawyers aren't necessarily always there to protect. It's a money game. I find it's really an area of game playing, and as you said, which is so true, who's got the most money, who's got the best experts that the judge is willing to accept into court. And the other part is that people don't realize, if you don't have the right type of evidence that proves it or shows it, that the court can deny allowing the evidence in, like it did with Amy's case.
And look, Amy would be the first one to tell you, Judy, and your listening audience, that she made some mistakes in this case. She consented to the appointment of this psychologist without really knowing who the psychologist was before she consented, because her lawyer, induced her to do so. So she'll tell you she made some errors, clearly. And as a guy who does this for a living, I've been involved now in these cases since 1984, almost 30 years. Look, it's my job to babysit the attorney. It's my job to babysit the case. I clearly don't get paid like the attorney gets paid, but that's okay. I don't. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme for me. I've been through this myself. It's how I got started in the mid-'80s. So there's a passion for me to win, just like there's a passion for the state of Florida or the DCF for the CPT to win. There's a passion for Dean Tong to win.
Well, I can hear that in your voice, and that's why I was excited to bring you on, because you have a passion, and that's how a lot of these things and programs get started, that we have really walked the talk. We've seen, and I know your son, I think your children are growing, mine children are growing, I've got grandchildren. I see things happening, and you're like, you can't do too much if people don't listen.
Yeah, so I'm trying to stress to your listening audience that do your homework before you select your legal team, and I mean do your homework. Just don't get a referral from a family or friend. Just don't go to the first website you see on the internet or the first Google search you click on. Do your homework, because you're never going to get a client list from an attorney. Never, ever, ever will an attorney give you a client list. Will give you emails and phone numbers to call. You'll never get that. So you'll never really know how competent this lawyer really is in trying this high-conflict custody case that involves child sex abuse allegations.
I understand, because what I tell my clients, I say, you contact the Bar Association, see if there's any complaints on the lawyer in any way. The first line of defense. See what's going on, if there's been anything report, because that's going to be a red flag to you. And also, I think we need to add that people need to understand an attorney could be good in one case, but not good in another case. So it doesn't mean that he's good in one, that he's good with everything. There's so many different factors that go into these cases.
So we're still trying to rescue Amy's daughter, if you will, Judy. We feel that the court has been complicit with basically keeping this kid in false imprisonment, kind of like the children that Ariel Castro brutalized up there in Cleveland, Ohio, the guy that recently died in prison. And,
I agree with.
We're pretty much out of legal remedies because Amy's out of resources to hire, big-time $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 attorneys. So we are thinking of holding a rally protest demonstration in Central Florida on behalf of Amy and her child, perhaps as soon as next month, before Christmas, to basically address this situation. And then, there are other mothers like her in the same boat.
I think that's great, and what I would like to do, I've known Amy, I've talked to her, and I can't tell how many times the hours I've spent talking with her, listening, and doing what I can to support her, that we will do our best to keep it alive here on the Coach Judy Live Talk Show. And as a matter of fact, what's great is, before the gag was put on Amy, she was on her last show last year in December when we did our PMA fundraiser. I believe that her show is actually up on the National Single Parent Resource Center website at www.nationalsingleparent.org. So if they want to hear Amy really speak it and hear Amy herself, they can go to the website and they can listen to the show, because there was no gag order at that point.
Right, and we appreciate and thank you for that, because Amy's really beside herself, because she has no way of really reaching her daughter. She gets 12 hours of supervised, monitored, chaperone visitation a month. It's really a sad situation, and like I said, the judge took custody away almost 3 years ago. And as you probably know, for a parent to get back in the ball game again, you have to prove a substantial material change of circumstances in the child's best interest. I think even if we had that smoking gun right now and we had that ammunition and proof, this judge would still deny Amy the right to see her child the way she should be allowed to do so.
Well, I agree with you. I have to say I do agree with you, because somebody just, when they set to make a decision, they just don't change. And it's a shame that she can't get another judge or have it like some of these other cases moved out of that area into a neutral area.
Yeah, the only way we're gonna move venue is to get publicity like we're doing right now, right there in Central Florida, where the case is being litigated. And I'm not optimistic the media is going to touch it.
No, I understand. Well, I will say I do know I have spoken to a reporter up in that area, so we'll talk later and see what we can do. Because I can't let this case go, and that's why I was also glad that you called me about wanting to address this case on our show in the way that we have, because it is an uncommon case that's going on. And
there's a psychologist too, Judy, who is on our side, and she's really been a very staunch supporter for other mothers who have been in situations where they've lost custody of their children. They're up against a government with unlimited resources like the DCF, the CPT, a court system that seems bent on making these life-altering decisions in a knee-jerk reaction, and without getting all the facts. And that's what happened here, and that's what's happening in other cases I'm on. And so it's not just fathers being falsely accused of molesting their kids; it's mothers that are being falsely accused of accusing fathers of sexual abuse of their kids, being tabbed as falsely accusing parental alienators, coaching their kids. And there's a page on my website which is abuse-excuse.com. It's called Tong's Take on Coaching. And I highly recommend folks go over there and look at that page, maybe forward it to their attorney or print it out and digest the information at that page, because coaching is a malicious act. It's a premeditated act. It's an act that's done in bad faith. And it's not what you know or what you think you know. It's what you can prove in court.
Exactly.
So, before an expert like this doctor on this case, this court-appointed psychologist or a judge can say the kid has been coached, you better, by God, have the proof that the kid has been coached. In other words, on the DVD, the kid says, "My mommy's told me to say bad things about my daddy." That would be tantamount to coaching.
Right. I agree. It is, Dean, we've got to get going. Our time, it really is up. So could you please do me a favor, put out your website so people can reach you if they need you and they can afford to hire you. Please put out your website and your phone number if you'd like.
Yeah, it's abuse-excuse, EXCUSE.com. You can Google my name, Dean, T-O-N-G. It's 813-417-5362 is my mobile phone.
Fantastic. Dean, thank you so much for coming on and sharing and helping Amy, as she will be in the forefront with me, and we'll see what we can do in keeping it alive on the Coach Judy Live Talk Show. So thank you so much for calling in and sharing updates on what you're trying to do and providing information to our listeners to understand the court system is not what you think it is unless you've been through it, and you have to go back. And
thanks for having me on again, and thank you for airing Amy's story and her daughter's story.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you so much, and keep me updated.
I will. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you. Listeners, I want to thank you so much for listening to the Coach Judy Live Show. Please know this show is for you. We did a lot today on single parenting because this case is so critical for people to understand the realities that could happen in single-parent families. It's just unbelievable. I am a divorce and single-parent coach. I can help you. I've walked my talk. I've been there, and I won, and I learned the games, and I won. And I also know how they can create evidence, and I know how you can create the evidence to support the truth on your side. I did it with my case. I helped my attorney. That's another thing I want to add. If you are in litigation, whether it be business litigation or whatever, be your best advocate by working with the attorney and learning what you need to really get the right evidence that can be accepted in court, because that is critical in that respect. Also, if you want to donate to the National Single Parent Resource Center for our abuse fund, as well as our fund for single-parent families, whether they're young or seniors like myself at risk of being homeless. Please support us and go to the website. If you'd like to be a part of the show as a guest, an advertiser, sponsor, please give us a call at 561-441-8557. Check out our other shows at nationalsingleparent.org. Email me at coachjudylive@gmail.com. Sign up with our Facebook page for the show. We have a page for single parents. And if you have a business and you want to participate and be a part of our show, we have a page for you too on Facebook. You can also follow me at Twitter at Coach Judy. And know that we care, and also we'd like you to provide information and suggestions and ideas for topics and people you'd like to have on. We're looking for sponsors so we can do a special guest segment, and the special guest is somebody who has worked in the national level or international level, like our friend Sally Anderson, who is on about default and achieving and being the person you are, so you don't have to be so depressed or to be depressed at all. And I thank you for listening, and remember, Coach Judy does care about you. We're here for you. All you have to do is email us or call us at 561-441-8557. And again, our topics are financial, and you name it, we'll do our best to put it on. And if you want to change your financial future, contact and email jrctp101@gmail.com and let them help you change your financial outcome. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great week. Bye.